I hope you're having an incredible day. We just had a great day on our first day 1 of 2 at Boston Fig Online, a fully online event. It's a little bit like PAX East or GDC, but in GatherTown. So you'll see, I'll throw a screenshot here somewhere where members Elizabeth McMahill and Roxy or Brandon joined us, and where Brandon and I were tabling. Elizabeth was wandering the floor and just chatting with people there about HomeTeam and about how it can be helpful to them, about what's been helpful to Elizabeth and Brandon. Was super awesome. But as part of our discussion this morning, figuring out a way to make sure that people who are here have a reason to register for HomeTeam sooner rather than later. So that's about to apply to you. If you've thought about applying to HomeTeam in the past and you didn't know when or why to check it out, we've got a new promotion. And this is some suggestion from some of the members about it's open until we're planning for at least June 10th as our target. So we know for sure that's when you can do it. If you apply in that time, you'll get 60% off your first 2 weeks. Only $10 a week for those first 2 weeks. That's on top of the full refund policy for the first 2 weeks. So if you join and you are in the first half a month going through our materials, trying out the approach, checking out the projects, and just not feeling it, you can also just let me know. You get a full refund. Then it costs you nothing. So there's truly no risk. But even if you stay, you're going to those first 2 weeks at 60% off. That goes through our normal pipeline. Just go to HomeTeamGameDev.com to apply. You'll find out about details there. You'll see it on the application form. Hopefully you're catching this video in time to still that offer an option for you. Now, I want to mention too, we've also been doing some updates to the site. So you'll see that the very front page of HomeTeam GameDev, and this is just the past quarter of the year, we've really clarified our examples and stories into, are you mostly joining because you're trying to work on your professional positioning, like for career portfolio? Are you mostly joining because there's projects you've always wanted to lead? You just like making games and you want teammates to help you do that. Or is it a case where you're making games mostly because you just find it satisfying to make things? You find code interesting. You find art satisfying. Maybe it's outside your area of specialization. Maybe you don't care for your profession. You're not trying to build towards a certain game, but you just like to make things in kind of the Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross sense. We love all three. Our community is necessarily a group of all these people working together, collaboratively, constructively, but you'll find right at the front door of HomeTeam GameDev a branch down each one of those. Been doing a little bit of touching up on the wording there. You'll also find, importantly, underneath our team section on HomeTeam GameDev's site, past that layer, there's a section where we explain really how and why the support trainers are so valuable and critical to why we've been able to release over 200 games on time in the past 9 years. Every time a game starts, we finish, we release that game, and we do it on the date of pitch we said we're releasing it. So just Brandon, for example, pitched Grim Enigma, an incredibly flashy FPS game that's kind of like single player Quake or Unreal Tournament. So on July 23rd, he said, I'm going to release this game on November 19th. Each 1 week at a time, let's build it together. The November 19th came, and that is the version you see at HomeTeamGameDev.com/games. Go and check out all the games we released. But part of what makes that possible is the support trainers, which we've increasingly realized there's several different ways that those are critical to the success of our approach. It's largely a self-guided learning thing, right? So it's not like when you join classes at a university and then you've got to sit through lectures and they're trying to handhold you through how to do stuff that honestly you could self-teach on YouTube or with video courses out there with other stuff. Where you need help is on a specific project for what you're trying to do based on your background, based on your goals. That's the part we focus on HomeTeam to pass that savings on. That's why we're able to charge so much less than those kind of institutions. But those support trainers, and so I help our people with my professional background in industry, from game design, from programming, from project management on various indie games, commercial, bigger games, etc. over the years. We also have trainers with backgrounds in game audio, professionals Chase Bethia, award-winning, Karen, level design background, Nick Mullen, Age of Empires, and so on. And these are people who they've got background in doing these things and have helped members before. We have gone through vetting them, who are available at no extra cost to members. So part of why there are dues is because they get paid out of those dues as a shared resource. Part of why it works this way. 2 reasons to think about. One, we don't want to charge per call because we don't want to discourage using calls. We want you to make use of the resources. I think about this when I was an undergrad. Our school admissions included the bus system to go to the museums and included passes to the museums. And so what I thought is, well, I better go because I'm paying for it. And so the hope is we want you and your teammates to use these calls, right? We don't want you to hold back on like, oh gosh, do I have it in the budget? No, if you're part of the group, be part of the system, use these calls. That's what we're here to do. Now, on top of that, even if you personally, let's say you're really skilled at what you do. You're mostly focused on code. You got a background in code. You don't need help from me or somebody else helping learn code. They are still beneficial in the following ways. The first off is that it enables all of your teammates to have the help they need to be supported. So it lowers the bar for how much experience someone needs to be. And I don't know if you've tried working with people randoms on the internet before, but if they have no experience, if they're fumbling or if they're confused, they sometimes might cause you more harm than benefit. You might find yourself derailed from what you want to do. We make sure if you're experienced, you can focus on the part that interests you, just that part. We will help resolve their confusion. right? That's part of what we, myself and the other trainers, help them get the help that they need. Now, from their side, whether they're beginner, just trying to get their basic footing and oriented, our trainers are supporting those kind of people, but also at a more experienced level. Let's say someone actually went to school for this and still wants more corrective feedback from an industry perspective, from a critical lens. What might you do differently? How and why can my process go about this differently for the music or for the art or something else? That is a place where, again, our trainers can help you do that. And that's part of what they're there to do, which means that even if you personally are not using those office hours calls or those training calls, the other members on your team do, which means you've got potentially more teammates because it lowers the bar for who can be involved constructively in your game. It means that each of them are doing better work than they could have done without that help. Now, obviously, there's no shortcuts here. If it's their first time making a Blender model, their first time making a sound effect, it's still going to be obviously not professional grade work, right? These are not big budget, real projects. These are still here mostly for learning and for fun, but it allows everyone to take their work up a level if they choose to do that, if that's of interest to them. No one's pushed to do it, no one's required to do it. This is also part of why, since I work with all of our project leads, right? So out of the home team, we've released 200 games on time. Before that, it's modeled through processes I set up at Carnegie Mellon and Georgia Tech for clubs that are still running. Collectively across these 500 games were released through processes close to this. Of course, home teams are the latest iteration of this process. But that's something that reflects the experience I have as a project manager. It's something that I've been able to pass on our Udemy course. That's also included with membership, the highest rated in the category, I believe, or one of the best selling for a while in project management on Udemy. CompleteEveryProject.com. It's included like all of my materials in home team. We don't charge, like you take a class, you got to buy the textbook and stuff. Everything is included. So all your teammates have access to that. But again, what this means is that that's why even if you're not using the help, every project you're contributing to, that lead has my help on making sure that their schedule is prepared correctly, being updated correctly, staying on a weekly beat and a rhythm with those updates. We teach all of the people our process, our best practices around past, present, future update pattern, how this helps keep the game on the rails to release on time. This is also what makes it possible. So if you just, let's say you pop into home team, you try it for 3 weeks, you chip in on a few things, and then you decide, this isn't for you. That's all right. But here's what will happen. That you contributed to a project during that time, that game is still going to come out when it was going to come out. You'll still be accurately credited for the thing you contributed. The code you fixed, the sound effect you added, the art you dropped in there. We go back through the GitHub history, make specific credits. And that game's going to come out on time, even if you walk away from it. Now, how often does that happen on the internet, right? What happens all the time in home team? Now, that said, what we hope you find is, like a lot of our people, that this is actually just a great way to make games. Whether there's games you want to make, if you don't want to worry about the sales pipeline, you don't worry about the niche, you don't worry about the porting and the maintenance and the customer feedback and all that stuff. You just like to make a game and then turn around and make another game. A lot of people found that this is actually the way they like to do it. Some of them aren't even trying to get a job in industry. They are just got some other career that they're happy with, that they're thriving in, and this is their outlet for, they've always wanted to make games. They have game ideas. They make whatever they want here. It's not a question of, is it saturated? Not a question of, can we get enough budget? Not a question, can we get a publisher sign off on it? It is, well, okay, well, let's figure out how we can make it work at this scale. And that's where you see the 200 games are released and a ton of variety, a ton of genres. Would love to help you build yours too and plug into the process, right? We're not a super exclusive community. We have an application process just to make sure that people know what they're getting into, because we used to just let anybody just click a button to join. Turned out there were sometimes downsides to that. So we have a little bit of an extra step in there. And I also want to emphasize, right, if even with the 60% discount for the next 2 weeks, if you catch this video while this offer still applies as a promo offer, you will still see, as always, we have a sponsorship program in place. And what this means is that there are people, strangers on Patreon, they won't know who you are. It's anonymous, the connection between this. They help support Home Team a certain number of openings. Around 20% of our positions in our groups, our openings, are at no cost to the member. They don't pay anything. They're not giving a credit card information. They're not connecting to PayPal. They aren't doing any of that. They get the full benefits. They have support to the trainers. They have support of the materials. They have support of the framework. It's kept deliberately ambiguous who is which. We don't want to call attention to financial situation difference, etc. But if that is what you would need to take partner system and take partner benefits, we've had a lot of great members over the years who has been able to improve, if nothing else, in some cases, their career opportunities, in other cases, their confidence, in other cases, just their creative outlet. We have the system in place for if you need it. You'll see it right there on the application. It spells out more information about how that works, but it's really as simple as checking a different box in the application if that's what you need. Now, obviously, there's a longer wait list for that. Many, many more people apply for that than we're able to kind of get through on a quick timeline. It's subject to when other people choose to phase out of making use of that opportunity. It's not a fixed length program. It's based on, are they still using it? So find out more about it on the forum, but for everyone else, you can certainly get through much faster, typically within only a week or two of applying. If you go to HomeTeamGameDev.com, check out, pick which pathway you see yourself in, or just skip right ahead. Just make sure you drop your application there before. Again, June 10th is the only time I can say for sure that this offer is extending to for those first 2 weeks at 60% off for only $10 a week. Those first 2 weeks, see all the information there on the forums. Hope this helps somebody out there. Of course, this is getting kicked off because of Boston Fig. Tomorrow's going to be another beautiful day discussing this with people. I'm excited to be out there. And even though it's for the Boston area, and it's been great seeing people there who I see at the physical in-person meetups at MIT and elsewhere, it, of course, is fully online. So if you catch this fast enough, you could still register from basically anywhere. Come visit us at the booth. It would be fun to see you there. That's it for now. Thanks as always for following along. I look forward to building games together and seeing what you're going to do in HomeTeam.